Hi, this is Pat Duckworth, the author of Hot Women Rock, How to Discover Your Midlife Entrepreneurial Mojo. My guest this evening is amazing. She's an accomplished inspirational speaker, a coach, an author, and a radio talk show host. She captures the attention of audiences with her vivacity and her genuine connection, and I can definitely guarantee that. She's travelled and lived across the globe as a military dependent, then later as a military spouse. She's been a featured speaker on National Public Radio's The Story Project 5 times and a TEDx Colorado Springs stage speaker. She's a thriving survivor of domestic violence, a traumatic brain injury, and breast cancer. And she's recognised out of over 16,000 John Maxwell coaches worldwide for the Culture Award for demonstrating a positive attitude. I met her when we were both in India in April to receive the Women of Excellence for Inspiration Award at the Women Economic Forum. And that's where we decided we need to talk to each other again. So welcome, Michelle Mras. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you for having me.
I know you're awesome. That's why I've been looking forward to this chat with you. We're going to talk about your entrepreneurial career, but did you start off as an entrepreneur when you left college? Is that where you headed, or what did you do?
Well, when I left college, I was already married.
Oh.
I was a military spouse.
You were an early starter.
Yes, I was a cook, a baker, a candlestick maker. I did everything. But I did a lot of home businesses. I did a lot of, just home businesses where I would go and, demonstrate things at people's houses, that kind of thing. And I didn't actually jump into the real entrepreneurial, start it all from scratch, not in a hierarchy already, until about 8 years ago. And I started as a political consultant. I was an image consultant. I was a speech consultant. So I would listen to people and critique their speeches and minimize and fix their messaging. I was a messenger.
Stop right there. How did you go from doing that network marketing? And we could talk about that a lot, because in my view, it's a good way to start out if you've never been an entrepreneur, because of the coaching and support you get. Actually, let's just wind back to that. Did you find that really helpful when you were first starting out?
It was phenomenal, because here I was, a wife and a mother, and I couldn't get out to work long enough. No one wanted to hire me because I had 2 kids and I had to get out to get them from preschool at noon, things like that. And a lot of us know that, right? We do that. And by doing that networking, that network marketing, and having a hierarchy and having people guiding me, it taught me, 1, I can do this. I can do anything. 2, it taught me that there's always someone there to reach out to for help. And that women would support each other if we allowed them to support us. And that's what I learned from that. And that I had a voice. And so I tried these different networking things because first I did the one that I wouldn't have to see people. And I went, I should probably see people. So then I did the next one that let me go do parties at people's houses. And then it just kind of grew from that. And then I realized when I had people working with me, I was helping them craft their story on their why, on why they were doing the network marketing. And so when I moved to the United States and then started looking at what I was doing for the team that I was already in, I went, I'm helping them message why they're doing this network marketing thing. I'm really good at words. That's what got me into politics, because then I started doing nonprofits. I started helping nonprofits, and then I was helping them make money. And then I got into auctioneering because I wanted to help the nonprofits because I'm good at words. And then when they found out I could make money really well, people said, you should help politicians run and make money, and that you can help build their support and shrink their messaging so they don't talk so long. Yeah. And so I'm like, I can do that. So that's what got me off on my own, because then I didn't have a group of women or a group of people helping me anymore. But I had built a base of about 10 years of network marketing.
Yeah, fantastic. How did you get into the public speaking side of it? Was that something you felt passionate about early on?
No,
Because you
I've
do
never,
it really well now.
well, I've never had a problem with crowds. I actually have great difficulty with small groups of people. I get very nervous. So I joined a group called Toastmasters International. It's all around the world, people. You can look for that. And I joined that so I could make it through an interview. That's why I joined Toastmasters. I
Oh.
wanted to be able to articulate myself better without the nerves. I knew I could speak, but I had to get rid of the nerves when I was a small group of eyeballs looking at me. That's why I joined Toastmasters. And while I was in Toastmasters, they said, you know, you're really good at this talking thing. And I said, I am? They're like, yeah, you are. You're funny. You capture us. I'm like, oh, well, I'll go out and help people speak. And it went that way. And then one of the politicians I worked with said, you know, why don't you represent me at this meeting and that meeting and that meeting? I can't go to these luncheons. Can you go and represent me? And that's what I started doing. And people went, why aren't you running for office? I'd vote for you. And that's how it all kind of catapulted. I'm like, because I don't want to run for office, but I'll talk. Now, how can I do this? And it just kind of spiraled that way. Best thing ever.
So 8 years ago, you started out for yourself, and what happened next?
Started off for myself in, well, first fundraising for just politics. And then I went into straight politics, writing for people. And then I got a bump on the head. I was in a car accident 4 years ago.
Yeah, are you happy to talk about that with us? Because, you know, I heard you talk about it in Delhi, and it is such an amazing story. And through these interviews, I like to show women that every woman's story is so different and the challenges are so different. So if you're happy to say a bit about that, I'd love you to tell that.
Oh, I'd love to share it. It's part of my story. It's my you can do anything story. So 4 years ago, I was on a good track in writing speeches and doing that thing for politicians. I was being groomed actually to run for an office, and they almost had me thinking about it. And then I was picking up my children from school one day, and a little girl ran a stop sign and hit me. And I didn't realize it, but 45 minutes later, I woke up.
Mm.
And long story short, about 12 days after, I thought I was fine, but 12 days later, I was speaking gibberish. And then for about 8 to 9 months after that, I couldn't speak at all. And then the doctors didn't know if I would be able to ever regain my speech back, or if I did, if any of my memories would come back. That's the other thing. I lost years of my life and only remembered my immediate family. So all that buildup I had done those past 4 years building my own business went away. I didn't remember what I was doing, my clients, nothing. Sitting in my head all by myself, I got very, very depressed because I couldn't communicate. Even when I wrote, my handwriting, no one else could read. I could read it, and I understood. I mean, I was full sentence speaking in my head, but it was coming out like paperclip, toothpaste, rock, scissor. It made no sense. I got my speech back. I worked really hard. I worked with a lot of neurological folks, and I built my ability to speak back. But as soon as it came back, the doctor said, we don't know if it's going to stay. And I thought, my children will never hear my voice again. My grandchildren will never hear me. You know, I had all this, I'm gonna be stuck in my head for the rest of my life. I need to go big or go home. I applied for TEDx. And I figured I'll go big or go home, right? It's my swan song. I did my TEDx. I don't remember doing it at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Do they have video of it? Have you seen it?
Of course. I actually have the video of my TEDx on the top of my website, michellemras.com, because it was a phenomenal thing. I don't remember doing it. I got off the stage, people were all standing up, clapping for me, and my husband came to get me because I was still kind of wobbly. I've got a traumatic brain injury. And he said, wow, you did wonderful. I did, what did I say? No clue. I had to watch the video to find out what I said. But for those of you listening, I have 4 areas of brain damage. I'm considered a high functioning traumatic brain injury. I'm missing the back part of my brain, the frontal lobe, the side here, and my 2 hemispheres have disconnected. So that I'm talking at all is quite a miracle. But what's amazing is that my brain rewired itself. So if you study brain waves or whatever you study that stuff, where, let's say, math would brighten up on one part of the brain, mine brightens up on the opposite side. So everything I've got is backwards.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's extraordinary. I mean, I think your story is extraordinary, but the brain's ability to rewire that neuroplasticity, it's just astonishing, isn't it? I mean, I've heard you speak, I've seen you walk and talk, and that you're doing all of this after what you've experienced. It's miraculous.
I worked hard.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really
hard.
Yeah,
it didn't entirely do it itself, did it? You put in a lot of hours.
Well, and I did a lot of homework. I mean, I would force my brain. So there would be days when I would sit around and I'd have to sit because I'd fall, where I'd raise my right hand and tap my left foot, or, tap my left hand and raise my right foot, because I had to force my brain to think both sides. It was a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that was only 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so how have you built, have you retired now, or what are you doing now?
Well, no, now I'm full out speaking now. Well, because it's the gift that stayed. My memory went away. A lot of the other things went away. And my gift of gab and remembering people stayed. So I can remember concepts and I can talk about concepts, and some things stick, some things don't. So the things that stick, I move to that. The things that don't, I do, well, it's gone. And I keep moving. I don't dwell on the fact that I've lost history.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you read any of my books, it's weird how my brain works. So like my first book, Eat, Drink, and Be Merry, that's my TED Talk. That's my TEDx. I wrote the book not remembering how I wrote the book. But the thing is when I wrote it, the stories I remember, I can tell you to the detail if there were ants crawling on the ground. So the memories I have are so detailed, and then the other memories are just gone.
Yeah.
Brain is amazing.
The brain is indeed amazing, and what you've been able to do is just, as I say, it's just extraordinary. So what sort of audiences do you speak to now?
All types. It depends on who wants to call me, because my new book is called It's Not Luck, Overcoming You. Basically fighting that inner voice, that inner critic in you. Raise your hand if you don't have an inner critic.
My hand's down. Mine is just, nightmare.
So I wrote this inner critic book because when I was stuck in my head and no one else understood me, I was trapped with my inner critics and telling me that, you lost your voice because you're useless. You lost your memories because they're not worth remembering. And all that stuff attacked me. I don't remember doing it, but I took notes.
Oh.
And I would argue with myself in my head. And I wrote it in my journal because I'm a journal person. I like to write things down. Well, 2 years ago, August 2016, I started journaling because I found out I had breast cancer. Oh, that's another journey. But I found out I had breast cancer, and I thought, again, I'm going to die again. Yeah. My kids aren't going to remember me. I'm not going to know who my grandchildren are. So I picked up my journal and started writing again. And I flipped back, and I found all these crazy handwriting that isn't even my handwriting. My 2 brains were writing. And I found all these notes, and I went, if it's going to help me through my breast cancer, because I was answering the questions, why can't I help other people? So I took those and put stories with them and combined them and put them into this book. Well, and the thing is we all have that inner critic that stops us from going to that next promotion, or from writing that book, or from, just, in my case, letting my children go to elementary school on their bicycles. Something that simple. Whatever that voice tells you that you can't, I walk people through chapter by chapter, proving to their brain that they can.
Yeah. Our inner critic says stuff to us that nobody else would say.
It's cruel.
It's, it is so cruel. Gosh, yeah, we need to tame that one. So this is Pat Duckworth, and this evening I'm talking to Michelle Mras. And I know that for you, your purpose is really important and helping people find their purpose. And from the work that I do and from the model that I use in Hot Women Rock, purpose is really high level brain function. We've been talking about brains, and purpose is really understanding your purpose is really high level brain function. So how do you help the women who come and see you, or the women that you talk to understand their purpose?
I help them find their identity first.
Yeah.
Because without understanding who they are, their purpose gets kind of muddled.
Yeah.
When I talk to women, and it sounds really cruel. Who's the person you want your family to be praising at your funeral? Are you that person? And one of the assignments I give my clients is, I want you to write a eulogy from your point of view, your children's point of view, at least one of them, your spouse's point of view, and someone who knows you well, like a business partner or whatever. It's earth-shattering, because then you realize, am I living to the potential that everyone sees, or am I living to the potential of what I really want to be, or am I not? And then from that identity point, that's when we start working on purpose, because you've got to find who you are. Now, remember, I'm coming from a point of view where I almost died several times. So my concept is, my reality check was, I'm going to die. What's my purpose? I mean, I need to leave a mark in this world. And what I'm trying to do is help my clients, the people I speak to, understand that every moment is precious.
Yeah.
And every day that you take saying, well, I'll wait till my child is 20, or I'm going to wait till my husband retires, or we put so many restrictions on our dreams. And what I'm begging everyone when I work with them is, stop waiting. Yeah. Tomorrow is today. My days went almost like that. I had a beautiful life. Everything was great. Memory gone.
Yeah.
Everything's great again. Cancer, you've got 4 months to live. Yeah. You don't want to wait. Now, do now. Start working little steps. What one small thing can you do today to make your tomorrow closer to what you've always wanted to do? It doesn't have to be big. It could be as simple as waking up 30 minutes earlier so you can do a couple of leg lifts. I mean, really, anything that moves you towards your purpose.
So, here comes the main question. What does success mean to you?
Success means to me, fall down, get up, fall down, get up. Really, it's pretty simple. You are successful if you wake up every day and do something towards what you want to do. Now, if you wake up and you roll over and eat bonbons all day, okay, not so successful. You successfully ate the bonbon, but to move forward in anything, trying and then falling and getting back up, that is success to me.
Yeah. And every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is I put my hands over my heart, I check it's still beating, and I just say, thank you for another day. Thank you for heartbeats and breaths, and everything else is a bonus.
Yeah, and I wake up and I put on my headset and I listen to meditation music and I just center myself before I start my day.
Yeah.
I've made it a habit since the cancer, because that centered me in the panic.
So 3 tips then, or your top tips for new women entrepreneurs, particularly those coming at it at midlife who perhaps haven't had the experience that you've had.
3 tips. Women, you are far stronger and more powerful and more brilliant than you give yourself credit for. When someone tells you, give us a resume or whatever, and you say, well, I'm not really good at program management. I don't know what that, your whole life is a program management. If you wake up and have done anything in your life, like get a job, drive, or anything, those are checklists, okay? So if you have children, you've definitely been a program manager. So Don't reduce the things that you've done. Look at your life. I want you to write a list. So number 2, write a list of everything you've ever done in your life, your family, whatever, and associate it to a skill set in the business world. Women, we do everything. We can do anything. And I remember me with my voices in my head telling me, oh, you've been a housewife for so long, you don't know how to. No, everything I've done has been a check mark on some resume somewhere. So don't belittle the experience you have. Then the third thing would be, if you fall, good, learn something. Don't repeat that. Get back up. Do something new. Can I do a fourth?
Okay. As it's you, only as it's you. Don't tell anybody else.
Number 4, don't copy other people's paths. Make your own path. Just because someone didn't do it that way doesn't mean you can't do it that way. Make your own path because someone is waiting for you in particular. Do it your way.
Yeah, those are really excellent tips because, you know, we are all unique. And I love that thing that you were saying about women and all the talents they have. You know, if you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, I stayed at home because it was important to me to bring my kids up, or I only had a part-time job or whatever, but you've probably been controlling the finances, you've been project planning, you've probably got a lot of driving skills, you're probably an ace negotiator. Value the things that you've learned and think about what about those you enjoyed the most. And, you know, you talked a little bit about identity. Identity is so important. And sometimes we get to midlife and we've really strongly identified as somebody who's in a support role, a mother or a daughter or, you know, a partner. And so what we've done is been in support. And now it's time to take on a new identity where you're pursuing your own dream. And it might be that you grieve a little bit for that identity that you used to have. Perhaps you loved being a mother or you loved being a daughter and looking after older parents. That's okay, you can love that. But if that time's gone, get ready to just say goodbye to it, grieve a little bit, move on to the next thing that's going to take you towards your purpose. This is so important. And some of the work that I do is around that identity and the moving on from one identity to another because, you know, it's crucial work.
Pat, I needed you a couple of years ago when I didn't realize that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. So if you're in midlife and you're realizing that, don't worry, you're not on your own. A lot of people don't really understand that. So I've learned a lot from hearing you speak in India and hearing you speak now, and this whole thing about using all of your experiences, you know, whatever you've done in the early part of your career, what can you use from that in the later part of your career? Looking at your identity, who would you most be proud being? And from that, what's your purpose? What would you be most proud doing? And yeah, you can do it. If you want to do it and you've got a positive attitude, listen to everything that Michelle has gone through and come out the other side of stronger. That's just so important. So Michelle, you've shown us your book a couple of times, or your books. Tell us the titles again.
I'm going to hold them up.
Hold them up, and I will be putting the titles here.
Okay, so Eat, Drink, and Be Merry. A Glimpse into a Life Well Lived. It should actually be Eat, Drink, and Be Merry, How to Live the Life That Your Family Talks About at Your Funeral. But yeah. And then It's Not Luck, Overcoming You.
They're both wonderful books. And if people want to find out more about you or to get into contact with you, how do they do that?
Well, I have a website, michellemras.com, but I'm very interactive on social media. So find me on Facebook, Michelle Mras, Mras Inc. And then, Instagram, Michelle Mras. And then in Twitter, I'm always twittering. So Mras Michelle, it just flips.
And your talk show, how can people find your talk show?
I actually have two. So I have a Facebook Wednesday Wisdoms. It's on noon every Wednesday Mountain Time. And then every Friday at noon, You can find me on TuneIn Radio app, KCMJ 93.9, and it's Conversations with Michelle. And I interview really cool people every Friday at noon. Mountain.
I have been on that show, so I know she interviews cool people.
Yes, and I mean, if you have a SoundCloud account, you can just look up KCMJ 93.9 Conversations Michelle, and it's got all of the interviews I've done.
Yeah. And if you're tuning in live, noon in Mountain Time is 7 in the evening in British Summertime or GMT. So if you've got time at 7 o'clock, you can tune in live to it. Thank you so much, Michelle. This has been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And to all of our viewers, I hope you've got a lot from that and a lot of inspiration from it. And tune in the next time when I'm talking to another wonderful entrepreneur. See you next time.